Welcome back to this channel, and we are going to interrupt the Closer Color Showdown for a couple of months just because Schmincke has released even more super granulating colors, and my patrons have decided they want the dot cards of the new super granulating colors, which are the Tundra and the Forest. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to actually review all 25 of the brand new limited edition Schmincke super granulating colors that came out last year. This series is going to be in 6 parts. In each video we're going to look at one color group. So for this week we are going to look at the Tundra one because that's the dot card that's being released this month, and then we just go through all 5 of the color groups that they've released, and then a final episode of like overall feel and what I think of the whole range. I have created a special test card for these colors, and if you'd like this test sheet for yourself, then it is already up on Patreon. So all you have to do is head on over to patreon.com/AutoKano, and it's waiting for you to test out your own super granulating range. This test sheet is a more condensed version of my usual test sheet because we have so many colors to go over, and it also has a little section where you can paint the original colors that these are made up of. I've put loads of information on it. Of course, every test sheet that I show you in this series will be also up on my Patreon if you want a high-res detailed look at these as well. So let's get on with today's video, and today's video we are going to cover the Tundra series. The Tundra colors include, first up we have Tundra Orange, and that is made with PR233, PBR7 and PY43. Next we have the Tundra Pink, which is made with PB29 and PR233. Next is Tundra Violet, and this is made with PB29 and PBR6. Tundra Blue is made with PB29 and PBR7. And finally we have the Tundra Green, which is made with PBR6 and PG19. First up is the Tundra Orange. Now with the test sheets, I have filled in as much information as I can find, but you may have noticed that there's very little information out there. Especially the newest colors, the Tundra and the Forest, only Jackson sells them at the moment. There was a rumor that these super granulating colors are exclusive deal between Schmincke and Jackson's. However, I've since seen the older new colors like the Galaxies and Deep Seas available on other websites and in other countries. So I don't think that's a thing, but I do think that Jackson gets to be the first people to make them available. And I love Jackson's. You guys know I get all my stuff from Jackson's. However, never rely on the information on their website because they are full of errors, and so I am not going to put information when I haven't been able to find other sources confirming what they say. So for the light fastness, transparency and staining, I have not put any info where there isn't a secondary source that I can look at. It's been such a weird series because when you look on Schmincke's website, there's no information about it whatsoever. When I wrote to Schmincke, they did send me an information sheet on the first 3 set of colors, but there's nothing on their website or anything. So what I've done with the pigments is I've gone with what it says on the tube, because I'm like, well, at least that's past the Schmincke's set of quality control eyes. And that's not to say that Schmincke won't make errors on their tubes. A lot of brands make errors on their tubes, so this may change. I'm just going with what little amount of information we have. In terms of the original colors, I try to stick with Schmincke colors wherever possible. There was only one color that I couldn't find any paint in their range that had the same pigment code. Where there is multiple colors that have that pigment code, I just picked one random one because this is just to give you a general idea of the kind of colors that are involved in these mixes. And for example, burnt umber and yellow ochre, this test sheet is perfect for showing you this. Neither of them are listed as granulating, but there are other colors in the Schmincke range that are granulating, that have the same pigment code, and therefore it's most likely that they use those ones. One thing I've finally figured out after, I don't know how long these colors been out, by doing these test sheets, I realized why they call it super granulating colors rather than just granulating colors. It's bugged me for ages, ever since the range came out. It's basically all the colors in this whole range have been made with just granulating colors. Other brands have been releasing these granulating colors that split, like Daniel Smith has them, Roman Schmaltz has them, and there's a couple of Chinese brands that have been releasing them, but a lot of them are mix of granulating color with a non-granulating color. Whereas as far as I can tell, and again, this is just me guessing because there's so little information out there about this range, is that they've chosen to go down the path of creating these dual colors out of granulating colors only, and that's why I'm guessing they called it super granulating colors. So for the colors that I've kind of chosen the wrong one, the ones that they don't say it's granulating, because I've worked this out after I painted these test sheets, so do forgive me. I have marked all the colors granulating, and then the ones that I'm like, oh okay, this one isn't listed as granulating, but they probably used another color in their range. I have marked it with a G in brackets, just so that somebody doesn't email me going, hey, but these colors aren't granulating on this sheet. I know, it's okay. I've marked it down. Thank you very much. So let's get on with the color itself. Tundra Orange. It's a yellow ochre warm color. It has the background color of the yellow ochre. You can see that here, and then you have the granulation settling in, mostly predominantly of the Potter's Pink. There is a lot of colors in this range that are very, very similar, and the only difference you'll see is like, oh, the granulating color is different, and this is one of them. There are, I think, 3 colors out of the 25 that have this burnt umber, yellow ochre, or PBR7 and PY43 mix, with just a difference in the main color that they're mixing with, and this is one of them. All Schmincke colors are pretty easy to re-wet, so when I say that this color was harder to re-wet, it was harder to re-wet compared to the other colors we're going to show you in this new line of colors. Some of them were super easy to re-wet. If they were noticeably easy or noticeably harder than the other colors in the range, then I have marked it here. I've also done the same with the tinting strengths. The thing about the 25 colors, they have huge variations both in terms of re-wet and in terms of tinting strengths. Some of them are really high tinting strengths, others aren't. This one is one of the lowest tinting strengths colors. This is the orangiest one out of all 25. So if you're looking for a yellow ochre color that also granulates and has that warmth of the Potter's Pink, then I think this is a good choice. It creates a nice, soft, but also vibrant palette. And in case you haven't seen any of my videos, I'm going to show you what colors I mix the main color with. So with these, I mix the main color with these colors. It's the 12 colors around the wheel, just so that you can get a good idea of how it's going to interact with any colors that you mix from your palette. The complementary color to the Tundra Orange, I would say, is somewhere between the Ultramarine Violet and the Ultramarine Blue. This one has a more warmer gray tone, and then the ultramarine blue has a more cooler gray. All the other colors are softened and warmed up a bit, and you see granulation in all the colors. Sometimes you mix granulating colors with other colors and you don't really see the granulation. Here you definitely do. I have to say the Queen Rose color that you get when you mix it with Tundra Orange is a lovely, lovely coral color. This will be a good color to have if you're looking to replace your yellow ochre on your palette with something granulating and you do a lot of warm colors on your color. Since we don't have any transparency or staining, I've done that for you over here. I've done the opacity, lift and glaze like we always do. With opacity, I can definitely see some brown residue on top of the black line, so I would definitely not call this transparent, which is what Jackson has called the tundra and the forest all transparent, which is why I don't use their information on my videos at all. This is definitely not transparent. I would say it's semi-transparent. You definitely see the residue, but also the black line isn't completely obscured either. In terms of lift, I would say it's medium staining. You definitely see residue still on here, and later on you'll see colors that just lifts completely. In terms of glazing, it's actually glazed quite well. Because it's a semi-staining color, you don't get the lifting of the paint from the first layer happening that much. So you do get a nice even second layer, and you do see up here a clean line of where the first layer and the second layer meet, but not so much here. Most granulating colors are harder to glaze, and I would advise that if you're using granulating colors, then either know exactly what you're doing or you'll get bold patches like you'll see in the next color here, where the color of the first layer has lifted when you put the second layer on, and you don't get an even coverage because the paint's just coming off the paper as you are trying to put the second layer down. So since we've talked everything about here, let's move on to the Tundra Pink. And the Tundra Pink is, I would say it's more of a purple. It's a Tundra purple, but they have a Tundra Violet coming up next, so they couldn't call it that. Tundra Pink is more of a purple with a pink undertone, and that's understandable because you got the ultramarine blue and the potter's pink. That's going to make violet. It does have intensity. You can get really dark colors, but one thing you have to watch out for is when you use it as a mass tone, you do end up with a sheen where the paint is most strongest, and you'll see that a lot, and I've marked it on each sheet that happens because you sometimes can't see it in the camera or in the scan, so I've marked it as shiny whenever I've observed any sheen in the mass tone. In order to hold on to so much granulating pigments, they do have to put more binder in, so you are going to see a lot more shine, and so just accept that as a granulating color, super granulating color feature, and basically don't buy the colors for the mass tones. Enjoy and buy the colors for what it can provide up here, because this is where it's most dramatic and beautiful and not shiny. So this is a violet, and I can see granulation mixing and blending in so many different ways. There's like purpley, muted purple granulation happening in some areas. Other areas it's more distinctively pink, and then other areas I see more of the blue granulation. So it's a very dramatic textural color, especially when you compare it to something like the Tundra Orange. Tundra Orange is like, yeah, you expect that in a granulating two combination colors, whereas this adds a lot more texture. So if you're looking for that lot of texture but you're okay with not being able to control exactly where the color split happens, then this is a nice color. It mixes beautifully with other colors. So if you are looking for a color that will mute down your palette a little bit and create this soft but still dramatic and very heavily granulating color, then I can highly recommend this. Here with the opacity, I would say there's definitely some opacity to it because I can see some residue on the black line, but it's not completely obscuring. I would say this is semi-opaque. And then in terms of lift, it's still staining, but not quite as staining as the Tundra Orange. And you can definitely see residue still left on the paper. In terms of glaze, it's not a good glazer, so I would avoid glazing with this color. Certainly with the same color, you can see this bit lighter than the middle bit, because what I do when I do these glazes is I draw an outline and then fill it in, and in that time the outline, the paints underneath it have lifted. This color is much easier to re-wet than the Tundra Orange, and so I've marked it as easy to re-wet. Tinting strength wise, it's middle. If I haven't written any comment about the tinting strength, then it usually means it's a medium tinting strength. Next color we have is the Tundra Violet, and this is like an inky dark navy blue color more than, I would say, violet. Like this would be what I would have called violet, and I would have called this Tundra Violet, but they can't do that because they also have a Tundra Blue coming up. So this one gets to be called Tundra Violet, but this is a very dramatic color. However, it is very prone to shininess up here. I mean, I wouldn't say it's very prone, but the problem is, and I don't know if the camera can capture this, but you have the dark, almost black navy color happening here, but then you can see the orange coming through on top, which makes it look like it's shiny, but it's not. It just means that you're not going to have much control up here in the mass tone as to how it looks. However, what's really great about this color is here, where if I do this, it's like already a dramatic sunset or a sunrise. It's beautiful. However, you don't have much control of where or how this happens, so you have to be open to experimenting and letting the paint do its thing. If you can do that, you're going to get some beautiful pieces out just by using this color. And here you also get the orange coming through the navy. The orange is very strong on this one. With the original color, I couldn't find any colors that had PBR6. It might be my mistake. I couldn't find it, so I've replaced it with Eco-Friendly Yellow Iron Oxide by Daniel Smith here. It's the closest one I could get with the correct pigment code. It's some sort of iron oxide. It could be yellow, it could be the red, it could be the brown. I'm not sure, but I mean, looking at this and looking at this, I would say it's a yellow iron oxide. Tundra Violet is one of the more dramatic looking paint, and if you are willing to experiment, I would highly recommend it. In terms of mixing colors, this color is also, not surprisingly enough, super high tinting strengths. Is very, very high tinting strengths, and you're gonna need an equally high tinting strengths palette to go with it. There are some that I've labeled high tinting strengths that you know most people can use. Whereas the super high tinting strengths, make sure you have really strong colors on your palette, otherwise mixing colors is just going to be a nightmare. And the reason I've chosen to do the full 12 color mixing is because some of these colors are not only beautiful on their own, but they're going to be great at mixing colors. This one, it does create some not great colors up here, some beautiful colors up here, of course, because it's more of a bluish color. I have to say though, I do really like the color it creates, this sage color with the permanent grain #1. So if you do a lot of color mixing with the cool colors rather than the warm colors, this might be a interesting one. It will definitely give you some challenge, both in terms of painting it on its own and in terms of color mixing. So if you're up for that kind of thing, then this will be a great fun. Opacity, again, I would say this is semi-transparent. I see some residue, but it's not a huge amount. In terms of lift, it's still definitely staining in that I can see where the color still is. However, it's not as highly staining, so I would say it's low staining. In terms of glaze, again, we see a very subtle white, well, lighter outline here. So not the best at glazing. Then we get the Tundra Blue. And yes, this is a blue color, and so I can see why they called this one Tundra Blue and not the previous one. This one is a mix of Ultramarine Blue and PBR7. This color is super easy to re-wet. It's almost like I'm re-wetting colors that have honey in them. It's that easy to re-wet. And the mix of the Ultramarine Blue with the PBR7 creates this gorgeous, gorgeous, almost like a really cold Atlantic Sea kind of color. It is beautiful. I love it. Might be something you want to try, mixing your Ultramarine Blue with some sort of burnt umbery color to see if you can get this color. It is gorgeous. And you see the blue granulation coming out here. Also here. This is just all purely granulation. You see a lot more warmth up here and not so much up here. There's slight warm undertone, but it's more considerably warmer up here than it is down here. So again, it will be a challenge, but if you can master it, then you are going to be able to create really dramatic paintings with this. In terms of this color as a mixing color, I wouldn't advise it. Doesn't create pretty colors. I mean, this might be what you're looking for. When I say a color is a good mixing color, I just mean, oh, it creates colors that I personally like. So when I say it's not a good mixing color, ignore me. If these are the exact colors that you're looking for, then yeah, this is going to be a great color. In terms of opacity, I would say it's semi-transparent, semi-opaque. I definitely see some residue on here, but the black line is still very clear. Here, I think it dried slightly like this, curved, so that a lot of the paint kind of collected here, and then that is more opaque, but that's going to be true with any slightly opaque color. In terms of lift, it's pretty easy to lift. It's got a little bit of stain left, but it's definitely not like here. You can see that this is easier to lift than this color. In terms of glazing, because it's easier to lift, it does lift up a bit, so I wouldn't recommend this paint as a glazer. This is another color that has high tinting strength, not super high, but it does have high tinting strength, so it will go better in a high tinting strength palette than a weaker one. And then finally for this video, we have the Tundra Green. And I have marked this color in particular with a heart, and I've done that throughout the series. When there is a particular mix of color that I really like, I've marked it with a heart so you can see it in the scans. Tundra Green on its own, not much of a winner for me. It's what people would call muddy green. It's swamp green is what it is. It doesn't have that much of dramatic beautifulness like the Tundra Violet has. On its own, it's not much of a lookout. However, when you mix it with other colors, I think this is an amazing mixing color. It creates an absolutely amazing palette of colors, so this would be great to use as a mother color. Just to remind you how bright these colors were, and if you have these bright colors but you want to paint something that's a little bit more muted, then all you have to do is get the Tundra Green and mix it up, and you automatically get these really rich colors. In particular, it is stunning with the quinacridone rose. It's very unique result that I don't see often, and just for that mix alone, I think is worth getting the Tundra Green. With Tundra Green, it is a mix of PBR6, which I am guessing is a yellow iron oxide of some sort. Again, couldn't find one in the Schmincke range, and cobalt green pure, or something similar to that. It's easy to re-wet. It is super high tinting strength, so watch out if you got a weaker tinting strength palette. The only reason why I would have this color on my palette is to use it as a mother color. So if you're going to do that, and if you're going to get this color for that, then definitely make sure you have a high tinting strength palette like my one. Opacity wise, I would say this is opaque because the black line is definitely more obscure than this color. I would also say it's definitely at least a semi-staining color, if not a fully staining color, because it's quite hard to remove, which also actually makes it a lot easier to glaze with. So when you mix this color with all these colors and you want to do a lot of glazing, that's not going to be as much of a problem for you. The complementary color to the Tundra Green is the Ultramarine Violet, and that makes a nice cool gray, but with this warm undertone that comes through from the yellow iron oxide. So it adds a lot of texture in terms of color into your painting just by mixing these normal colors with the Tundra Green. That is the Tundra colors, and if you want to try these beautiful colors out at home but you don't want to fork out for full tubes because there's so many different colors, then I have very convenient dot card for you over on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/AutoKano. For this month, it's the Tundra colors. I've already done the deep blue, the Glacier and the Galaxy color dot cards, so if you want those as well, you can order any of my older dot cards that I still have stock of if you sign up to receive a dot card. So you can totally get all these colors in a dot card form rather than having to buy very expensive 25 tubes of paint. And the next month I will be doing the forest one. That's the last one that I haven't released as a Patreon dot card. That's coming next month. But this month is the Tundra colors, and obviously yours won't look like this. Yours will be brand new. This is just to show you guys what colors are on there. I hope this video was useful. I hope this helps you in terms of selecting what colors you do want to buy from this range. If you do, I have left links down below to where you can get them. That really helps me if you use those links. Do let me know what you think of these colors and which ones you really like and which ones you don't like. In the final video of this series, I will go over a bit more about the whole range as a whole and how to navigate trying to find the right color for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!